That too was said, and in just that way. Furthermore, regarding women, we mentioned that their natures were able to be tuned to the men and so made similar to them, and that all the women, all occupations, were to be given in common, those pertaining to war as well as to the rest of life's regimen. That's just the way that too was said. Well, what about the part that had to do with the child production? Or is that easy to remember because of the unusualness of what was said? We set it down, did not we? Did we not? That regarding marriages and children all would be in common with all. And we contrived it so that no one might ever recognize his own private progeny, and all will regard all as their very kinsmen, as sisters and brothers, if these happen to be within an age that fit their own, but as parents and grandparents if they came before and were upwards in age, and as their own offspring and descendants of their offspring, if these were children and lower down in age. Yes, that's easy to remember, just as you say. And indeed, in order that they might become, to the best of our power, as good as possible in their natures right from the start. Don't we remember how we said that rulers, male and female, had to contrive some sort of lottery, by secret ballots, for martial coupling, that the separate classes of bad and good men will respectively be mated by lot with women who were like them, and that no hatred would arise among them in this score, since they believed that the cause of the allotment was chance. We do remember. And what's more, do we not? Do we remember how we said that the offspring of the good were to be brought up, but the offspring of the bad were to be handed over in secret to the rest of the city? And as those offspring were growing up, the rulers always had to keep a sharp lookout for the worthy ones among them, and bringing them back again to their former place, and move the ones among themselves who were unworthy into the place of those who went back. That's what we said. Well then, have we by now gone through things exactly as they were said yesterday, so as to go back again over the chief points? Or are we still yearning for something further in what was said, my dear Timaeus, something that's being left out? Not at all. On the contrary, these were the very things that were said, Socrates. Footnote. Socrates has in fact given a highly incomplete summary of the best city in the Republic. He leaves out the concern for the proper ordering of the individual soul, the need for philosopher kings, the mathematical education that paves the way for dialect, and the eventual degeneration of the just city. He also leaves out the whole problem of defining justice and determining whether the possession of justice makes us happy. End of footnote. Now then, hear if you would what comes next regarding the regime we went through. Now I happen to be affected by it. My affection seems to be something like this. It's as if someone who gazed upon beautiful animals somewhere, either produced by the art of painting or truly living, but keeping their peace, were to get a desire to gaze upon them moving and contending in some struggle that seemed appropriate to their bodies. I, too, am affected in the same way toward the city we went through, for with pleasure would I hear someone giving a full account of her struggling against other cities, in those contests in which cities contend, how she made a fitting entrance into the war, and rendered appropriate payments to her education and upbringing in her dealings with each of the cities, by the way she acted in her deeds and negotiated in her speeches. Now, on this point, Critias and Hermocrates, I myself have accused myself of never becoming capable of praising our men and our city adequately. Of course, there's nothing wondrous in this inability of mine, but I have gotten a hold of the same opinion about the poets, those born long ago, as well as the ones that are around now. Not that I dishonor the poetic class, but that it's plain to everyone that the imitative tribe will imitate easiest and best what has been brought up on. And it's difficult for them individually to be good at imitating what arises outside their upbringing. Difficult in deeds, and still more difficult in speeches. And as for the sophistic class, in its turn, I believe them to be highly experienced in many and beautiful speeches, and on other matters. But I fear that somehow or other the members of this class wander from city to city and haven't settled down anywhere. In their own private dwellings, the class would stray from the mark in describing how men, at once philosophers and statesmen, might act and speak when, in battles, they acted in deed, and engaged each adversary in speech. What's been left is the class in your condition, the class that by nature and upbringing partakes of both at once. For Timaeus here, being from Italian Locri, a city with excellent laws. Footnote. See Laws 638b. According to the Oxford Classical Dictionary, Epizephyrian, or Western Locri, a city in the toe of Italy, possessed Europe's earliest written legal code, attributed to Zellicus. Oxford Clarendon Press, second edition, page 616. The legislation of Zellicus was known for its severity. Pindar refers to Locri as the city where dwells unswerving strictness. Atrekia. Olympian 10.13. End of footnote. And yielding to no one in those parts, in substance and class, has managed the greatest office and positions of honor in his city, and moreover has, in my opinion, reached the very peak of all philosophy. And as for Critias, I suppose all of us in these parts know that he's a layman in none of the things we're talking about. And again, regarding Hermocrates' nature and upbringing, one must trust the many people who testify to their adequacy in all these matters. That's why even yesterday, bearing all this in mind, I gratified you heartily when you obliged me through matters of regime, since I knew that none would answer more adequately than you render the account in order, that is, if you were willing, for by establishing all things appropriate to the city, you would render her engage in a fitting war, you alone of those now living. And so, having spoken what is ordered, I ordered you in return to take up what I am describing even now. Then, after you had looked over in common among yourselves, you agreed to pay me back today with my gift of speeches. So here I am, arrayed for the occasion, and readiest of all men to do my receiving. Footnote. Socrates uses a form of the verb kosmien, related to the noun kosmos, to convey the fact that he is dressed up. It is the first appearance of a cosmos world in the dialogue. See glossary under cosmos. The only other dialogue in which Socrates uncharacteristically dressed up is the Symposium. He's wearing shoes, 174a.